Again. Hello.
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Now the sound is better.
Yeah.
You all can hear now.
Yes, sir. Yes, can.
Right. Okay, thank you. So basically, that is what from our side we want to highlight you all that you all work in a system that is the government healthcare system. So when you are working in the system and when you are completing your internship, you have to keep those things in mind as well for a successful completion of your internship. So therefore, I briefly go through what are the behind the scene aspect of your internship, which are not directly dealing with your activities, but these are very important, and you can't go away with these things when we are doing the internship. So first I will go through the little bit of explaining about the government healthcare system. I think it will be very important for you all to figure out where I am. So you will be in a district general hospital or teaching hospital or base hospital, but altogether how these units fit into the bigger picture. In the government health sector, the secretary health is the head of the ministry, and under him, Director General of Health Services, currently Dr. Asira Gunawardana is the Director General of Health Services. He is the overall in charge of the Department of Health. Under him, there are several to assist him. There are Deputy Director General of few Director Generals are there. But for your situation, the most important Deputy Director Generals will be Medical Services 1 and Medical Services 2. So Medical Services 1, they are the one arranging your internship. Once you have completed the internship, DDG MS2 will handling your affairs in order to give the appointments, and thereafter, when you are be a medical officer in the system, your all the affairs will be dealing through the DGG Medical Services 2. So that's how the ministry hierarchy is arranged, and where you all are dealing with. So Director TCS under the Medical Services 1, he is the focal point who is handling the internship, RHO and PGM and consultants, and Director Medical Services. What I am doing, I will looking after the post-intern appointment, annual transfers. Then you will be well aware that there's a difficult station list and the special appeal. Those are the things that comes under the purview of the Director Medical Services. So we'll then move into Roshan slides. Roshan, I can't move the slide. All right. Then when it comes to the hospital level, there are two type of health subsystem in our healthcare system. One is the healthcare institution directly comes under the Ministry of Health in the Colombo. For an example, National Hospital Colombo, National Hospital Kandy, then District General Hospital Kego, Ratnapura, Karapitiya, Matara, so many. So some hospitals directly administered via the Ministry of Health, and some hospital the healthcare system is has two components: the provincial healthcare system and the central ministry healthcare system. So the provincial healthcare system, which is the head of that province will be the provincial director of health services. For an example, if you are take Sabaragama province consists with two districts and one for those two districts there will be a one director that he called regional director of health services. He is looking after the affairs of the district. So therefore, two regional director of health services in the Sabaragama province. Above them, provincial director of health services is there. So under the provincial health administration, there are so many healthcare institutions under their purview. From smallest healthcare institute like the primary healthcare units, you might have heard that the primary healthcare centers, divisional hospital, those are the smallest healthcare institutions comes under provincial healthcare system. And above that, the secondary healthcare institutions, hospitals, base hospital, and sometimes district general hospitals comes under the provincial health administration. Now, if you take Karanala base hospital, it comes under the provincial health administration. Mavanala base hospital comes under regional director is the Kegol regional director, and overall is under the Sabaragama provincial director. When you look at a bigger hospital like district general hospital Tambulga, that hospital also belongs to provincial health administration. So likewise, the hospital where you will be appointed either administered through the provincial healthcare administration or administered directly with the contact with the Ministry of Health. So, but when you are working in your respective boards, you don't feel that the difference. But when you are appointed as medical officers, when your transfers and those things are happening, this awareness will be very important. But for you all to do the internship, I don't think that this will be really matters to you all. And but anyway, you have to be aware of that the Sri Lankan healthcare system is arranged in this kind of a manner. Secretary is the overall in charge of the Ministry of Health, and then under him, Director General of Health Services, and the health services is arranged in a provincial health system, and some institutions comes directly under the ministry purview. So that is the basic overview of the healthcare system of the Sri Lanka, and that's how it's operates. So when it's come to the hospital, for an example, now you have appointed as an intern medical officer in a teaching hospital, Anuradhapura. Now, at that hospital administered by the director, and under him, so many consultants are there. So under the consultants in a particular setup in a ward, there are senior registrars, SHO, and you will be in the hierarchy, you will be in the bottom. So above your SHO, registrar, senior registrar, consultant, and finally director will be there. So you have to be aware of this hierarchical arrangement. I think when you are doing your undergraduate level, when you are doing the clinicals, you might have to be a bit familiar with the setup, and you know how the system works. So this is very important to understand this relationship of the working environments. Same as the provincial healthcare institution as well, the base hospital basically it's the head of the institute called director, not the director, medical superintendent. Under medical superintendent, consultant, SHO, and the HO are working. So then you will be appointed to 64 hospitals around the country, except this national hospital. So you know that you have to complete 2 6-month appointments. One domain should be surgical, one domain should be medical. And during this, I think no mutual transfers, and you can't change the stations once you have chosen that particular station, unless otherwise very specific reasons that is agreed upon by all the stakeholders in the intern appointment process. So we will then will speak about few things that you have to consider when you are conducting your duties, not the clinical thing, but all the other affairs. That you are you will think that if something happen, how I am going to leave, what are the privileges that we have, and how those things will happen. So. Uh, uh, you can take during this period 14 days of medical leave, but those medical leaves have to be valid medicals. You can't just claim that I didn't come for the work and you get a some medical from someone, and it is not acceptable. You have to give a very proper medical if you are claiming a medical leave, and otherwise you all don't have any other leave during this period, and that or as obvious maternity leave will be granted during this period. And beyond this period, the place anyone who taking leave beyond this period, invariably they will be placed bottom of the list with the next batch. So we have to be aware of this fact. You have to complete your internship within the stipulated time period. If your whatever the reason, if you get delayed in completing the internship, you might there's a big chance of keeping you all in the next internship list uh, when given the appointment. So that we have to be aware, and we have to consider very seriously this thing. Without understanding the uh, proper guidelines and the proper rules and regulation, uh, don't come and tell one when the things have happened. We don't know that. We didn't. No one has told this one. Well, I don't know about the things. It's your duty to find the things and make yourself updated and aware. So this is a very brief overview of the your affairs. So this will just give you an idea how you should act during your internship period. Internship is a tough period, difficult period, as it should be, like, because it is the period that all of you all get molded to take the more responsibility, more strenuous and more challenging career ahead of you all. So this is the period that you all get that necessary exposure, and they will test this internship period will test your the mental capacity and your endurance and other capacities to be a good medical officer in future. So you will have to bear so many things. You have to make so many sacrifices during this period. So therefore, we have to play the game with the rules, and these are the few rules that we have to abide by. Then, when you are doing your internship, you will be give in-house residential facilities most of the time, but if some institution couldn't find a place, but they will take care of you all and find a suitable place for you to come and work. So during when the residential facilities, it will be definitely a shared room, but you will not be shared with the male and female, but males will be shared with the males, and females shared with the females. So that is how the things happen. One or two, two or three, depend on the available to the space. You have to share your room, and your rooms will be provided with the intercom, the telephone facilities, and common TV lobby and the dining areas, and those things will be amenities will be available in your residential facility. Uh, you must be in the premises for 24 hours. Even you are not actively on call on the service, but you will have to be in your facilities 24 hours, because if something has happened, you'll be called to the wards. And so when you are leaving the premises, you have to inform your clinical consultant that I'm leaving from the premises, and with his or her concurrence and awareness only, you all can leave the premises for your matter. This one very important aspect in your conduct, the dress code. This is very important, because most of the time we have seen that the junior doctors, they are less scared of their attire and their grooming. Because of that, they invariably they face a lot of inconveniences as well. Because you are the first contact point with the patient, and not only that, the patient and the relatives and the other stakeholders, like the people who come and ask they want to know about their uh, patient's condition, and sometimes the hospital other staff categories, they also your hospital, the ward staff, they might be aware about you, but the next ward or some other ward, the office people in the hospital, they might not aware about yourself. So because of that, you have to give the impression that you are a medical officer, and for that purpose, you have to be concerned about your attire, the dress code. So ladies, can you mute yourself? Someone is speaking. Could you please mute yourself? Ladies, preferably the sari or long skirt, not that the very fashionable way of dressing. And you can do that when you are not in the duty, but not when you are on your duty. Gents shirt and the trouser and the tie. So this is very important, as I now repeatedly I'm telling this, because even when you are doing the night rounds, also you have to think that how you are going to dress yourself, because this is the area we have seen that sometimes no one is care if you are not putting your stethoscope around your neck. No one will recognize you as a doctor. So you have to think about that, and you have to uh, invest some money on your clothes, and just think of that, and be very clean and neat, and give the impression that we are a uh, very approachable and pleasant doctor. Then, as you, when you are doing your undergraduate level, you have wear white coat. Always wear this coat, and it's easy. Sometimes you have to keep. Sometimes your small things, like you can keep them in the your pockets, and rather keeping everything in your hand. So those are the few things that I want to mention about the dress code. So then the working hours, exactly, first before explaining this slide, I want to tell you that this, though the normal duty hours we have mentioned, you allow uh, you allow uh, uh, you have to imagine that you allow 20 hours on duty line. So prepare yourself to take a challenge, and take that opportunity for you all to test yourself as well. So even though these normal duty hours are there, it's pretty much sure that you will have to work extended hours, and you have to you will have to cope up with a lot of work at the ward setup. So that is the challenge, and you have to overcome that challenge with your mental abilities. Usually it's 8 a.m. to 12 noon in the morning, and 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. In the evening is a normal duty, and you have to do the night round from 9 to 11 p.m. But don't we though I am mentioning it as normal duty, but it is not the practical and it's not the reality in the work setup. You will have to work from morning to next day, or even after that, you might have to continuously have to work. Sometimes depend on the uh, requirement and the demand. So you have to this for your awareness only. I'm telling on call 24 hours. You have to be on call. Every other weekend on call. If you are lucky enough to have other people to cover your duties, but if not, you will have to work. So when we are you are interns, uh, sometimes we work continuously for a 1 month duration, including the Saturday, Sundays, and uh, public holidays. So, and you have to maintain the diary. Is very important. You might be engaged with thousands of activities, and you might not get the chance to have your meals even. But keep in mind that you have to maintain your diary. It has to be updated daily. Best time is end of the day, before leaving the ward. Uh, Write down the diary. You make the entries what you have done in the day's time. So that is very important thing. That habit will be carried forward throughout your medical career in the state sector health system. You all are not allowed to do private practice, and all admissions have to be seen before leaving the ward, and stamp patient uh, should be clocked within 20 minutes. Very important. Keep it in mind. Stamp patient stat to HO to C stat like the seal, something like that. Those tickets you have to attend within 20 minutes of time, whatever the work you have. Otherwise, you'll be in trouble, and you'll be little. If something has happened to the patient, you will be charged as a negligence. So it's very important. You have to keep this in mind, because we are coming across so many cases, litigations from the patient side, because not like the previous era, 70s, 80s, or 90s. Now people much aware of the things, and they will question us. So something has happened, whether it's right or wrong, they'll question us. And so we have to be sure that we have done the correct thing at correct time. Therefore, these small things will have to think very carefully and do the needful. Daily work. I think your supervisory consultants will inform you all on this regard, how to do the daily work and the ward rounds. But technically, ward rounds should start before 8 o'clock, and you have to be prepared for the ward round when the consultants come. So we have to start early. Sometimes it may be time, maybe 6 o'clock in the morning, depend on the setup where you are working, especially in the teaching hospital and all the so many consultants are there. So they will come simultaneously in the morning. So you have to finish your work before they come. So you might have to start the ward round even before the stipulated time that we have mentioned here. So it's depend on your situation. These are not the the these are not the rules and regulation, but it's only a guide. You have to uh, the point that you have to take from this thing is that you have to start your round before 8. That is the thing. So during a round, I need not to emphasize that. You have to enter your notes very clearly and in a legible manner, and you have to always you have to write your name and the time and the date. It's very important. Now, yesterday also have gone through a inquiry. Some mishap has happened in a foreign-based hospital. Patient has died within 24 hours of admission. The guardians claim that the negligence of the doctors has caused this death. So when investigating on this thing, you will also be questioned on this regard. Now, in that case, I have seen that the intern medical officer has given a statement. He has mentioned that I came at this time, I have checked the patient, and I did this and this and this. So those things has to be reflected in the ticker, BHT. So irrespective of your workload in the ward, we have to equally treat the BHT as well as the patient. Because if you are not entered properly, no one will accept that you have done that thing. So your way of your writing and all the communication that you have done with your consultant or maybe SHO or maybe registrar, senior registrars, everything has to be properly documented in the ticket. So there's nothing called that these things should be entered, these things should not be entered. Like the whatever the correspondence that happening in relation to a patient, you have to enter in the BHT with the time and the date, and ideally the signature should also be there. So during your course of your work, which I'm not going to elaborate so much on this because it's your supervisory consultant will elaborate on this more than me. You have to collect reports. You have to identify the patient's problem, the drug chart. You have to check and the management plan of the patient. So those are the things very important when you are doing the daily work. So these are few things that you have to just to remind what are the things that you are to look in to when maintaining the BHT. Check whether BHT is registered or not. If not, ask nursing officers to get the patient registered. Correct identification of the patient. You might be clerking in a different patient, but without recognizing this BHT belongs to another person. So those are the common things that can happen. Always before writing or in the BHT, just check with the patient name and his age and other details, because you might enter erroneous entries in a different patient. So that will be count as your negligence, or your capacity might be questioned. Probable diagnosis, daily assessment. If there's any referrals to be done, we have to write those things on behalf of the consultant and get his signature. All the notes has to be written very carefully. And prescribing also, as the director of your respective institution, he also has a part in relation to your conduct. Now, immediate supervisor of the consultant, but in your gas assessment book for your internship, in that your consultant and the hospital director both has to sign in that book. So as a administrator, they will look in at the aspect, not the aspects that the consultants might not look at it. Like your working hours, how you come, you are coming on time to the ward, and attire, how you are dealing with the patient, how you are dealing with the staff, and the way you making the notes in the tickets. Those are the things supervise direct as well. So if you want to successful completion, not the signature of your consultant will not be sufficient, and the director's signature also very important. So therefore, you all have to comply with both the clinical commitment as well as the hospital rules and regulation, and the invariably all the ministry guidelines, rules and regulations you have to abide by, because administrator is there to make the governance of the hospital. He'll make sure that things are happening in a proper manner. So he will supervise in that manner what you all are doing. Even the prescribing also now, when we are doing the ward rounds as managers, we have observed that sometimes the drugs have not been omitted. They are continuing, but in the daily note, the consultant asked to omit a drug. So your one of your key responsibilities is that check the drug chart with the treatment plan of the patient. Otherwise, it will be a harm for the patient. Then patient transferring, the last part of our presentation, the transferring patient, if whenever you decide that this patient need a company with the patient should be accompanied, you will have to accompany. There are no such rules, regulation, which one to accompany, which one not to accompany, with whom I should accompany. Like sometimes we have seen many a times that when transferring a patient, there are so many problems comes into the scenario. Like if a nurse is not there, doctor is not going. If the doctor to go, the minor staff and the nursing officer and the team should be there. Like that, there are so many things that they have reinvented. Like those are not actually in the guidelines, or not in the circulars or whatever. The main concern is that the most important person for you all is the patient. If you all think that this patient is not safe to transfer without a medical person, then you all have to accompany the patient. So that is the thing. If you all are not done that, if something has happened, then you might be responsible for that act of omission. Like, so it would have been done, but you have not done it. So those are the things that can be happen in patient transfer. Is very clear. If the consultant or any senior registrar deciding that this patient should be accompanied, you have to abide by that, and you have to accompany the patient. So it's very important during the transferring. You have to be ready with if the patient get collapse or arrest. So you have to be prepared with that, how to resuscitate the patient and stabilizing the patient. Those things are our intention is not to be a passive passenger in the ambulance, but to be actively manage the patient till that patient reach to the next destination. So those are the things very important aspect as a medical intern medical officer. So the capabilities and the attitudinal change that we are taking through this internship process will be the most important part, I believe, because we will have then be a passionate and the caring medical officer in the future who will actually contribute into the betterment of the patient benefit. So that is our aim of this internship. So we hope that everybody will fall into that shoe and deliver your best. And this is a challenging. This is the first time you might be challenging as a professional. All this time you are learning under someone else, the parents will be behind and your teachers will be behind and you all are teaching, you all are learning. But now this is the time that we are trying to apply what we have learned. So this is a very challenging time. Try to overcome that challenge in a positive note, and that positive mark energy or positive mark that you will gain through this training will definitely will be a contributing long way for the success to your career as a medical person. So that's all what we have to tell from the this side. Anything you want to ask, I can give a few more minutes to you all, or other than that, we can wind up the session.
So, thank you, sir. If you all have any questions, you can take the time and ask about any questions. You can unmute and ask. Even regarding your internship, you can ask any questions you can have if you're having.
Chat box. There are a few questions. I think I have put into chat box. Do we need to inform any authorized person when accompanying a patient while transferring? Uh, that is now. Decision will be made by the either consultant or one of your senior colleague, and the receiving end has to be informed, otherwise it will be a problem. Without you all informing, you are taking the patient, and the receiving end might not be prepared to accommodate the patient, especially the ICU or HDU patients. Be mindful of that. Just rather putting the patient into the ambulance and going, just make sure that the next end inform them that you are taking a patient with acute or critically ill patient. So it will be good for the patient, but there's no uh, regulatory thing that you have to any authorized person to be informed before leaving. No, you're in the board setup. You're one of your senior person definitely taking the decision to transfer the patient. That is the requirement, and it has to be. There are mechanism if they are informing to the hospital authority that this ambulance is leaving. So those things you don't have to be mindful, but you have to write in the ticket that the decision and the this authorization you have to ask from the director of the hospital for the ambulance, and also those things will be routine things in the ward. They will definitely tell you all how to do those things. And other question, sir, we know that we just get an allowance, but can't you get any action to increase? So I also agree with you all, but it's difficult for me to do that one. But yes, of course, everybody is suffering, but I don't think that we won't be able to do any change at this point. But the relevant people on this matter, they are working very hard to get some uh, solution for this. About doctors scrub suit for dress code. No, no. This is like a misnomer from my side, because from the Ministry of Health, we have not given any circular for you all to wear the scrub suit. That was given during the COVID period only. After that, the circulars also issued. We have to wear the proper clothes, dress you have to be followed. But we have seen that many places still the scrub suit is practicing, but that is not accepted or recommended. So you have to now it's when you are working in a theater ICU, it's a different thing. But in the general ward setup, we are not now encouraging, and that is not according to the ministry guidelines as well. And we have seen that people going to the supermarket with the scrub suit as well, and some people coming to the ministry with the scrub suit. It's totally irresponsible way of behaving and the dressing. It cannot be acceptable. Don't do that. Now this is not the COVID time. You have to, as I mentioned above, you have to do dress as we expected from you. That's yes, definitely. If you are taken the mandate, you have to repeat that period, and depend on the situation. If you're lucky enough, you might be able to catch up with your batch. If not, you have to definitely go to the next batch. Oh, tentative date of starting the internship. Yes, we are planning to start by next month. Definitely it will be started, but the best answer for this question can be given by Dr. Priyantatapattu is the director TCS. They are working very hard on this matter. I can't exactly tell the what is the date, but it will be not that late because this one batch is completing internship end of this month. So technically, we want to take you all from the next month, first of next month. Medical leave, if you are like fallen within the amount that you are given, no need to repeat the internship. What about who are married and is there priority of getting station? Yes, very common question. Uh, the, the you have to you will be considered in the lowest merit order. One is supposing the one is in the 100 merit position, other one is in the 1,000. So then invariably you will be, if you make a request, we will consider as a one, then you automatically you will be going to the lowest merit order person. What about dresses or trousers as the dress code for female doctors? Good questions, but what I can tell from the ministry side is that, as I mentioned in the slide, that is up to now that we have accepted. So anything will be discussed in the ministry and let you all know until such time that the prevailing one has to be followed. Maternity leave, yes, you have to repeat, otherwise you how you all have done, you completed the internship. Roshan, I think seems to be all. As there are no other questions, we can now wind up the session.
Yeah, we are going to the second lecture, sir. It's on disciplinary procedure by Dr.
Right.
Jayakodi. So we can go to the next lecture. So
Okay, thank you very much. Then
thank you very much for your time and for
Yeah.
your detailed lecture on this matter. That was Dr. Pre-Intern Karunaratha, Consultant Medical Administrator and Director Medical Service and Director at the BH Mullaria East. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Roshan.
Thank you, sir. So next up is another important lecture on disciplinary procedure. That's very important for your internship and years to come. So follow that lecture following this, right? Thank you.
Sir, can you hear?
Sir, you are Dr. Shan? Yes.
Yes, I can hear, sir.
Yes, can.
So, okay, then carry on. Full screen. Then, sorry for the interruptions. Let's move to our presentations. Through these sessions, we will cover the area legal background of in the public sector and understand the key benefit of knowing disciplinary procedures to confidence when dealing with disciplinary matters. As a government service, day-to-day activities we engage with our government activities, lot of challenges we are getting, then how we can face and overcome those things. Familiarize with guides for carrying out an investigations, because particularly the medical officer who are being appointed, seeing his first appointment, staff grade executive officer, we are though it is not in this opportunity, later on will be appointed as a head of HR, maybe DMO, MOIC, or medical MOHS post. You have to face this kind of as a, not only just as an employee, but as the head of institutions. You should be thorough with the area, because you have to handle your subordinates, and whether their conduct is within this our rules and regulations, then you are accountable there. So being a medical officer, not like any other officer, just in the events you are as executive officer, then you have to have this thorough area. That's why the basic target of this kind of sessions we expect to convey you, then you should be capable, you should have that capacity. So understand the disciplinary authority and establishment code, what the content regarding the disciplinary procedures, and improve skills on conducting a preliminary investigations, because again what I mentioned a while ago. So let's move to the yeah. Basically This same procedure is a very vast area. Just within a 45 minutes, we can't cover the entire things, but throughout of your career as a medical professionals, government servant, you have to keep up, you have to thorough with establishment code and a lot of there are rules and regulations documents we will discuss later. You have to update your knowledge day to day, where you can be thorough about the area. Just these sessions, what we explore you, this is the area, these are the possible outcomes if you are not following, and as a head of institutions or manager, if you are manager, you may be supposed to discharge this kind of services. So disciplining inquiry is one of the key components of the human resource management in the public sector today. Effective and efficient discipline can help correct employees' behavioral issues and can improve the productivity and quality of the public service delivery. Because we are dealing with, particularly the healthcare organizations, we are dealing with people more sensitive. So in the case of healthcare, it is so significant than any other organizations, because the majority of the people, the entire country is looking at us, the output, what they feel based on our is very concerned. Then discipline ensures individuals' behavior in an acceptable way at the workplace and also adhere to the rules and regulations of the organizations. Because as organizations, we have a goal. The responsibility of the department heads, the ministry, is to conduct our organization towards this goal. Then it should be ensured that all the employees within the ministry are working toward that. Just because of that, the disciplinary procedures, discipline is very essential. So let's move to the topic, who is public officer? Now you are a public officer after a lot of hardships, being undergraduates nearly 5 to 6 years. You are completing a very difficult 1 year period of internships. Now you are becoming a medical officer. Now you are public officer. You have got full SLMC registration, and now you are full-fledged to practice as a medical officer in part of the country independently. But then who is this public officer? Public officer means a person who holds any paid office under the republic, under the government. If anyone is getting salary, he is considered as a public officer, except very few. It means all the officers who are being paid by the government are not considered as public officer, except who are judicial officers. And there is another list I have mentioned here. Due to the concern of time limiting factor, we will just go through like this: the political leaders and other members of the elected national police, like all the particular hierarchies are not considered as the government officers. You will see, if you go to the list carefully, all the officers who are paid, not government officer, public officer, because a group of people are taken off, the politicians who are engaging with political development and like these organizations and the particular hierarchies have been removed, kept out these regulations, because they are not considered as government servants, government officers. All others are considered as government officers, where you and me work today. So what are the guidance documents? Now you have been recruited, absorbed into the government servant service. So since today onwards, the day you have been appointed, absorbed, considered as a government servant, then you may have a dilemma. How we should behave? What are those rules and regulations? How we should practice? How, when we do something, how do we know whether it is good practice, the right practice, what is the correct path there? Yeah, we need to have guidance documents. So the entire public service is governed through set of documents. Basically, establishment code, which is having two parts, establishment code 1 and 2 components. The second part is entirely assigned just to address this disciplinary procedure. Then you may understand how much weightage important have been for that much of important area we are talking about today. In addition to the establishment code, there's a financial regulation, which is called FR, and circulars. Just mentioning circulars, there are a lot of circulars. Just you are working in the Ministry of Health, don't think you are just bound to the circulars issuing in the Ministry of Health. No, it's just like a chain. It's an integrated system. You are a medical officer, you are appointing authority, Public Service Commission, you are discipline authority, yes, it is also Public Service Commissions. Then you have to abide with those circulars issued by the Public Service Commission, Public Administration Services. Likewise, there are general circulars issued by the Ministry of Health and other ministries. And when you are appointed for a provincial council post, then you are working as a provincial government officer. Then the circulars issued from the provincial council, as well as when you are working in a hospital, particular organization, there are some internal circulars also issued or adapted are going on. Then you are governed, you are bound to work with all those circulars documents available. Then you have to carefully identify which area you are working, you discharging your services. According to that, you have to select the particular rules and regulations, because all the circulars are not focusing you, but relevant circulars you should be understand. So on top of that, there are procedural rules and regulations issued by the PSC, Public Service Commissions, and there are some guidelines from the particular services. Like in our Ministry of Health, we have a lot of guidelines. As a medical officer, when you practice in the particular clinical area, specific area, you have to you have to follow those protocols, guidelines as well. As long as you are following these things, you are working this scope, you are protected. If you are according to these things, you are in safe hand. So that is why we need to know what are the available rules and regulations documented, and we ensure that you are working through. So when we move to the area, now we gradually came what is the discipline, what are the those rules and regulations, where it is mentioned. Now we come to the topic, main core area, general conduct and discipline. We'll see what is this general conduct. As a public servant, we have to know, we have to have this conduct. Basically at the beginning I mentioned, we need to have a discipline to conduct employees for goal. So we have to have good conduct to achieve run the organization. For that, we should have these steps be followed: undivided allegiance to the state, perform any duties assigned on time, familiarity with regulations. That is what we elaborated. The particular rules and regulations what we mentioned should be familiarized with you. Safeguard repute of his office and the services. It is your responsibility, you are accountable to protect the service and the good name of your services. Avoid conflict of interest. Really, basically, there are a lot of allegations. Most of the times, though, the rules and regulations they are. When we go through our news and day-to-day and the social medias, we see what has happened and what is the practice going on. So the people who are deviating from these things in very dangerous situation. Then should not canvas any promotions for it may become personal agenda or something else for something not within the duty affiliated with your common prescribed duty. If you are going to engage with and promote something else, it is really punishable offense. Then exchange duties for pecuniary considerations. If you are doing something in targeted finance things, financial benefits, yes, it's you are exchanging your duties based on the financial things. Really, it's a grave mistakes. Then courtesy to public, use of language, particularly as a not like though this is mentioned in the establishment code, we are medical officers, we are dealing with patients, we should be so vigilant, we should have good conduct because we are dealing with human. The patients who are coming to us, they are innocent. It is our responsibility to have a good conduct, to treat them, to talk their mind, not just because of the discipline is there, because we are medical officers. So the story is there like that. As a government servant, public servants, we should use a good language, the courtesy to the public. Collection of money, private use of government property, government money, not only money, property as well. Very common things. If you are hearing, if you are going through the paper articles, newspapers, and day-to-day news, you may be knowing what is happening today in the country, not only today, previously, and with contemporary. So it is you have to take it fine thoroughly what it is telling. You are in danger once if you are using government properties, government monies for your private users. Supplies in government prohibited, because that means in brief, you are not allowed to do businesses with the government. You are not allowed to do any supplies to the government. So that was the conduct. Basically, a government public officer is supposed to discharge, supposed to do routinely. That is the practice he is supposed to have. So when we come to the discipline, considering very thematic areas, very frequently addressed areas, we have highlighted few topics. We have frequently our public officers are getting punished and going wrong due to their misunderstanding and malpractices. Number one, use of liquor and narcotic drugs. Use of liquor or narcotic drugs in an act of misconduct is a misconduct. Major punishment to be imposed. That means what is the practice if you as a medical officer, MOH, MIC, or if you found someone is in your organizations having under alcohol influence, you first in hand you can advise him, warn him, and if he is caught in the second opportunity as well, definitely you can go for a disciplinary action. But the scenario story is completely other way around. Once if you find someone in narcotic drugs and using under the influence of narcotic drugs, it's a compulsory dismissals. No any excuse. In the first instance, he should be used for the relevant disciplinary procedures. Then gift and subscriptions. As a public officer, you are not allowed to enjoy gift and subscriptions from your customers. It may be sometime getting those things as a really not any interventions, but just because of the satisfaction of the customers, the services you delivered, maybe, but according to the positions you are holding, you are not allowed to have, you are not allowed to enjoy any gift and any subscriptions. Officers and families prohibited from receiving certain types of gift. Be responsible for the acts of the members of his family. Gift received on capacity. When refusal is not possible instructions to be followed. To be reported to the Secretary, Minister of Foreign Affairs, once if you are getting something from a overseas based things. So for this phase, I think they are much more than for you for these capacities. Just understand, as a medical officer, you are not allowed to, as a government officer, you are not allowed to have any gift and subscriptions from your patients, except you are allowed to have some, not only you, any public officer is allowed to share some gift or subscriptions during some transfers, retirement period, it is allowed. Then for next slide, pecuniary embarrassments. Debt regarded as impairing efficiency. Government servant should have a good conduct. Once if he is having some damage, good name, like having a debt everywhere, being debted, affecting the confidence that may be reposed in the officer, disciplinary actions may be taken, salary receipt not to be negotiated, disciplinary actions to be taken in case of indebtedness and insolvency, should inform head of the Department of Fact courts to report of insolvency proceedings, actions on such reports as laid down by rules. Because if someone is having poor performance in management, personal financial management things, being a government servant, if he is proving that he is losing something what he has earned, himself he displayed that he is inefficient, because usually government servants are getting his annual increments based on their efficiency. In the other way around, if he is himself showing that his inefficiency, it means that his inefficiency is considered as a disciplinary misconduct. Then use of government funds and properties for private purposes, previously also we mentioned, invariably it's a misconduct. Then very, very significant, important topic, release of official information to the mass media or the public. Nowadays also, days later also, you might see frequently those scenarios, number of times those things, cases were addressed in media. Being a public officer, you are not allowed to release any official information to the mass media or public at your discretion. There's a process for that. Head of the department, secretary or the head of the department, Director General, is the only one to release those things to the media. Otherwise, according to their delegations, if someone is officially appointed, then he is allowed. Otherwise, according to your discretion, you are allowed to deal with the mass media or public and release official information. Keep in mind that is official information. So, but this is also here we mentioned briefly. I think these last sentences are important for your organizations. Holding office in mass media organizations, publications of official documents is prohibited. No interviews on state policy. State policy, official things are not allowed to address at your capacity. Then publications of books, articles for broadcast and talks, etc. where anonymous articles, talks, and on administrative matters, you are not allowed to do. If you have some intentions to publish some documents, paper articles or some things, where definitely you have to have the permissions of the head of the department necessary to consult official records. Prior permissions of secretary necessary to publish books and articles. So as being a public servant, Now you may understand how it is accountable, how much you are responsible. You are holding a separate post. You are a government officer, just not merely officer. So adherence to the establishment's code, financial regulations and other provisions, as we mentioned previously, always you are governed by a set of these regulations, establishment's code, where we need to follow. So political activities, when we talk about the political activities, there are government servants which are allowed to practice, enjoy this privilege, to engage in the political activities. There are some officers not allowed. In your capacity, being an executive officer, you are not allowed to engage in political activities, except you can cast your vote in each and every elections, but you are not allowed to engage in political activities according to your wishes and things, because you are holding a executive staff post in this ministry. So considering our time factor, I think we are remaining only another 15 minutes. Is it, Dr. Shah? 15 minutes. So let's move a little bit fast. If you have some problems, we will discuss at the end of these presentations. So what are the common errors among medical practitioners today we encounter, we see? So considering the very thematic area where the medical officers are getting punished and getting these issues, we have selected few topics. Number one, maintaining diet. You got your appointment as a post-intern a medical officer now. As an intern also, you were supposed to maintain, I believe all of you have maintained diaries for internships. Then this is not very strange for you, but keep in mind thoroughly, there is a circular, the latest circular issued 2016, General Circular number 112/2016, issued by the Minister of Health, maintenance of diaries by the medical officers and the dental surgeons, common one. You have to have these circulars, collection of circulars in your office. You have maintained as personally as well, because now this is the beginning of your career, but you are supposed to be in this career more than another 25 years. So definitely day by day you have to collect those materials and be thorough, because these are not hard and fast, and this is not eternal. These are being changed according to the requirements of the government of the country and the ministries very frequently time to time. So it is your responsibility getting updated and maintain these documents and follow those things, because doing something wrong is not excused by not knowing the particular rules and regulations. At any cost, any employee, government servant, not knowing, telling that I was not aware that the circular has been changed, it is not, I have not seen, not itself allow you to do some common wrong practices. So in this circular, main key salient points what you have to understand, maintaining in the maintaining of diary. You will see this is the diary. So number one, date. The left arm, left side corner, number one, date. You have to mention the date clearly, month, date. Then place, details of work and on-call duties, where you discharge your duties, under which ward or unit or things you have discharged your duty on that day. Then arrival time, departure time, and hours of work and signature. So if you are, as an executive officer, if you are maintaining these diaries, as mentioned in very clearly in this way, when you furnish these documents at the end of the month, you are supposed to provide these documents for your salary balance to get your salary. If you are not doing these things very neatly and eligible way and completely, most of the times the officers from salary branch will refuse doing the proceeding the relevant rest of the things for your payments consecutive months, because of they may say your things are not complete and not eligible. So it is our responsibility, being an executive officer, follow these things very neatly and run the things. In our professions, being a medical officer, this is a great opportunity rendered us, because all other government servants are supposed to put their signature or fingerprint at the end of entry and exit of their working place. But considering the nature of our medical professions, the duties we are discharging, so sensitive, and we are engaging with the human beings, the life of the people. Sometimes any second, 1 second may decide the life of the people. So that's why we are allowed to maintain our diaries our own. But at any moment, if you are asked to produce your diary by a finance court officers or someone from the ministry, head of the institution, administrative post, then you should be ready with your updated diary to produce, because that is what you are basically expected to have always in hand, those diaries and updated. At any cost, you are not allowed to take this diary to home or move out of the health particular office. All this diary should be in your working place, and the diary should be placed in a place where the head of the institutions allowed with the discussion with him. So next, move to the duty hour circular. Basically, medical officers are working in two categories, categories, where what's a patient setup. When we talk about the patient setup, it may be a clinical setup. It's a medical officer of health, the medical officer of health, that's MOH area, otherwise a special campaign, or hospital. You are supposed to come to the duty 8 a.m. to 12, from 12 to 2, you are allowed to have your respite time, lunch time, and 2 to 4, again, your duty times. After 4, you are leaving your duty place. In addition to that, according to rosters, you may be in on-call duties. Then you should be beginning your on-call duties in between 12 to 2, or before 8 and after 4 p.m. Then when you come to the Minister of Health Officers, otherwise Regional Director for Health Services, Provincial Director of Health Services, like officers style platforms, where your duty is beginning from 8:30 a.m. to 12. Then you are getting your lunch hour 12 to 1 p.m. Then 1 p.m. to 4:15 p.m. you are completing, you are leaving your duties. Then you will see the difference when you go carefully, as in clinical setup, where we are dealing with patients. Healthcare institution is organizations running throughout of the day, 24 hours, 7 to 365 days of the year. So irrespective the public holidays and Sundays and Saturday, you should be working. So on the particular setup, though you are working Saturday and Sunday, in the case of officers, you are supposed to work from Monday to Friday. If you, according to the requirement of the particular organizations on with the approval summons from the head of the institutions, even in offices, you may be asked to work. But basically, this is the your time frame, duty hours you are supposed to work. So when we come to the extra duty claiming circular, again, it is very important you to be updated what are the rules and regulations going on and how you should follow. Basically, you should complete your 6-hour duty each and every day if you expect to claim your extra duty. First, you have to have completed your 6-hour duty, then each and every hour you are earning until 4 hours per day, you can claim extra duty. But if you are doing some services less than 1 hour within the particular day, it doesn't matter even the adding of the 15 minutes, half an hour. At the end of the day, if you are getting all together more than 1 hour, 1 hour or more than that, you are eligible to claim that. Which must be more than 1 hour, not less than. Those who are doing just clinic works, only clinics works, if he's allowed, if he's doing this duty 6 hours, after that, even if he's supposed to be there and engage with activities, another 2 hours is allowed to claim for the medical officers who are engaging in clinic activities, not like in a ward setup, things others. They are allowed to claim 2 hours only if they are seeing patients in the clinics. Though it is like that, 4 hours per day, think that there are some 31 days for a month. So it is like that for per day into 31. 124 hours are not allowed to claim because altogether you are allowed only 120 within this month to claim. I think these are very clear for you. Then provisions of leave. The other most important area, leave. There are several types of leave, categories. So in this short period of time, we can't talk everything very comprehensively, but basically understand this is very significant, important. Leave is a privilege and it's not a right. You can't struggle, you can't fight requesting your leave as a right. It's a privilege. You are allowed to have leave if the head of the institution is satisfied. In the absence of you, though the institutions can be the patient care, the continuity of the patient's care is not interrupted, yes, then you are allowed to have leave on the satisfaction of the head of the institution. He should be ensuring that patient care is in place. So when you apply leave, you should go through the particular standard forms 3 days beforehand, or at least 7 days beforehand. You should inform to the particular head of the institutions and get the approval. And it is your responsibility to arrange covering up your duties with negotiations with your colleagues. Then applications for leave out of the islands, when possible, must be made not less than 3 months before date of leave. If you expect to have some foreign leave, 3 months beforehand, you have to arrange it and get approval. Not less than that, you are not allowed. Then authority for the granting leave. Authority for granting leave is vested upon the head of the department. He may grant leave of absence on full pay to be spent in the island, provided that arrangements are made for performance of his duties with other officers of the department. Leave of absence from station. An officer may not absent himself from his stations without leave, and applications for leave must be made to the authority grant leave, even though permissions may have been obtained verbally. Some of the times, due to some urgent situations, you may be communicating with the relevant authorities over the phone, email, SMSs, but later when you came to the report to the duty, you are bound to submit particular leave documents. So we're considering types of category of leave. We will rush through this type of category leave because it is very important to know. Again and again, I would like to recommend you, please follow E-code, read this E-code, because now you are supposed to sit for the efficiency by examinations to get to grade promotions and confirmations. Then you have to get through the efficiency by examinations. So it is very, very mandatory to being updated about this establishment code, FR and circulars. So be informed that you are getting updated with these documents. So leave for part of the day. You are allowed to have a leave for part of the day. For that, you should have completed 3.5 hours at least from the beginning or within the particular duty hours you are supposed to discharge. Then casual leave, due to some indefinite reasons, you are allowed to have casual leave 21 days per year. Then sick leave, 2 days are allowed to have due to some sick conditions, but if you are getting more than 2 days, then you should provide a medical certificate from a SNMC registered medical officer or Ayurvedic medical officer. Then leave on leave, if you are working on public holidays, if you are working on public holidays on the request of the particular head of the institution, you are allowed to have a leave during a working days instead of that. But it is not allowed to go abroad. That leave on leave can be used to spend your leave within the country only. Vacation leave, 24 days all the government public officers, but except those who are having 24-hour services like our health officers, Minister of Health employees, and other in Defense Ministry and Department of Police, like they are having given 28 days per year vacation leave. It is for the again vacation leave, the testing leave based on the duty arrangements. If you are head of the institution allow you to have the provisions, you can have that leave. Then accident leave and special sick leave due to the duty. If the head of the institution is satisfied that you are getting the particular leave due to the your working environment, accident leave, then you are allowed to have the accident leave considering your time durations. Once up to 6 months you are allowed. More than 6 months, if you are recommended to have the leave, definitely you are supposed to go for a medical board, and with the satisfaction of the department, you are allowed to have accidental leave if it is affiliated with some discharging your duty. Then lapsed leave, what you have not used last year during your service periods, then you can use selecting 2 consecutive year leave for that purposes things. Then things like that. Here you can see this is the another most significant area, maternity leave. Full maternity leave, you should be aware that what during the maternity period, when you are going maternity leave with full pay, there are 84 days leave, 3 phases. First phase, you are maternity leave with full pay. You are paid full your payments. Here not included public holidays, Saturday and Sundays. Then you are getting maternity leave on half pay. We are included your public holiday, Saturday, Sunday, for in the period of half pay should be treated as half pay leave. Then maternity leave on no pay, where again all the public holidays, Saturdays and Sundays falling within that period should be included. So always when you are getting these things, you have to liaise with your head of the institutions and the continuous service availability. You are allowed to have these extensions of the maternity leave, half pay and no pay, except full maternity pay leave. It is your right. You can have that. This is the only right you have for the leave. And, here, though you are in a position to report your duty more than after the delivery of the child, you are not allowed, because first 4 weeks is considered as the right of the child, and you are not allowed to report to duty within first week 4 weeks of the childbirth. Then you can see this what your disciplinary control, ultimately, though you are appointing authority and disciplinary authorities public service commission with the gas certifications 2015 11 20 public service commission has delegated his power to secretary of health for the second schedule offenses only, not first schedule. Sorry, first schedules only. Offenses specified in the second schedules only. First schedules not delegated. First schedules offense punishments, disciplinary actions are still with the service commission. So basically, this will process what complaint some complaint may be landed on you. Otherwise, during a surprise raiding or test notice or at any suspicions, if the head of the institution is having some calling for preliminary inquiry, then he will go through the process and see whether you are really having some you engage with these allegations. Is it otherwise you are you looks free of those things if can be exonerated or not. Really, if there is some things behind you, lacking behind you, then he will call for issue a charge sheet, and based on the charge sheet, your explanations, you are forwarded for a formal inquiry, disciplinary authority, but not in the case of preliminary inquiry. If you found that you are not guilty, then itself it may be terminated in the preliminary inquiry. No need to go for a formal inquiry. That is the process basically. It's a huge process, very complicated process. You will see like what he mentioned. Basically, that is what I mentions. It's a big process. This is the type of offenses, first schedule and second schedule. You can see left-sided document is having the first schedule, and right-handed by the second schedule. Basically, the second schedule things are due to the second schedule offenses and offenses. You are not. It can be considered as improper. Just what you are getting: inefficiency, incompetency, and inadvertence, and lack of integrity, improper negligence, and indiscipline in an officer is considered as this. And but you can go through and see what is the first schedule things. So I think due to the limiting of the time, we have time is over. So I believe all of you will go through the power presentations carefully and be thorough. Keep up your knowledge with the circulars, establishments code, FR, things like that. And we are definitely throughout of your career as a medical officer, even the medical administrator or consultants, at what capacity, these are essential staff elements you should be thorough. So a few case studies also attached here. Sorry, I think time is over. We have to conclude. So again, at last, I would like to request all of you be a good public officer and have a good conduct as a medical officer, and come forward to protect these medical professions and raise it as a further noblest profession in the country. So wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Prabhat, for that informative lecture. Now it's time for another important lecture by Dr. Ajit Tennapon, who is a consultant judicial medical officer and the chief judicial medical officer of Institute of Toxicology and Forensic Medicine, Colombo. Sir, thank you very much for agreeing to do this presentation with a short notice. Then always you are helping us in this training programs for medical officers. So it's over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and good afternoon. Right. Can you see the presentation now? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, can see the presentation.
Right. Okay. Thank you for the introduction, and I'll be talking about medical legal obligation of a clinician. I understand that this is a post-intern batch, right? So they are already registered doctors working in the government sector. It is important. I think you have already completed internship, so therefore I think actually most of the things that I'm going to talk, and also you can put the experience that short experience you gained during the internship into the talk that I'm talking to. I'm giving the facts that I'm going to give you. We are doctors and working with the lives of the people, and you can do thousands good things, and when one thing goes wrong, that will be highlighted, and also there's a possibility that you will be taken to courts if that wrong thing, the single wrong thing, has created some has done some damage to any patient, right? So therefore you have to be very knowledgeable and careful about the things that you do, because everything that you do has some sort of a legal implementation also and the medical legal aspect is very important for every doctor, medical care worker to know, right? Generally, of course, we have some general obligations when you work in a healthcare sector. That is, we are bound to give standard medical care to the patient. I'll tell you in my next slide actually what is standard medical care. Then the next thing is that we are bound to give due respect to the patient. Patient is the most important person in this system. We may fight for our rights, and we can formulate our trade unions and fight for our rights, and all the healthcare workers, trade unions. But I think sometimes we forget that the most important person in this healthcare system is the patient, right? Patient also has some rights. And so therefore we have to respect this patient in this healthcare system and give due care to him or her. And the third thing is that we have to give due respect to the colleagues. This also, unfortunately, we have seen that issues pertaining to this thing, and we should not criticize our colleagues in front of patients. And this is happening in government sector as well as in the private sector, and this can cause a lot of unpleasant situations. And we are bound to give respect to the staff members. These are teamwork actually, not only the doctors and all the minor staff, and the nurses, and everybody is a member of this team. You can say that we are superior to any other peer. So therefore we have to respect the other members also, and also we have to give the due respect to the relations. Right? Is again the cases that we come to. Which come to us, when you analyze, of course, some of these problems could have been sorted out actually if you talk to the relations, because they have right to know about their patients, next of kin or the loved ones. Unfortunately, doctors say that they don't have time to talk to relations, but it's very unfair because relations we have to respect them and we have to tell what is happening with the patients. It's also very important. Then we have to give respect to the deceased. The deceased person, dead person also has some rights actually to be respected and managed with the dignity, right, and to be identified and various things there. So therefore, even when the patient dies, we have to give due respect to the dead body, and also the maintain and respect doctor-patient relationship is also important. We have obligations. The duties from the doctor side when we maintain this doctor-patient relationship. We also have the government in hospital, so there is a institutional responsibility as well towards the doctor-patient relationship. But all this sometimes in Facebook, but I think it was very nicely written, very simple way, but it can understand, everybody can understand this. I hope that everybody can understand Sinhala and can read this. මේක කියන විදිහට බලන්න රෝගියා කියන්නේ රෝහලේ සිටින වැදගත්ම පුද්ගලයාය. As I told you, he's the most important person in this system, right? Not anyone else. And ඔහු අපෙන් යැපෙන්නකු නොව අපි යැපෙන්නේ ඔහුගෙන්. It's also very important for us to remember that we are dependent on the patient. So අපගේ කටයුතු වලට අවහිරයක් නොව ඔහු අපගේ කටයුතු වල අරමුණයි. Right? That's very nicely written. And අපගේ එදිනදා කාර්යාවලිය රෝගියා පිටස්තරයෙකු නොව අපගේ කාර්යාවලිය ඔහුය. Also sometimes very often our people forget that, you know. ඔහු පුද්ගලයෙකු මිස ඔහු අපගේ ලේඛන ස්ථාන නොවේ. And sometimes we have seen, you know, the doctors and other healthcare workers are trying to treat the BHP more than the patient himself or herself. It's also very, you know, starting to see those things. Then the next one is very important. Oh, hangium bara, tawul sitting, sa saking මානසිකවද කායිකවද පීඩනයටපත් පුද්ගලයෙකු. I don't know how far we think about this psychological effect of these patients, you know, how psychological status of their mind. We mostly think about the physical, the pain and the other problem that they are going through. For example, you know, if a person comes to hospital following an RTA with some multiple fractures, you know, and we think only about the physical pain and the physical suffering that the patient is going through. But sometimes more than the physical life, he must be psychologically suffering, because he must be the whole breadwinner for the whole family. He must be suffering how, you know, how to survive the family without his input. So we should be, I mean, do we at least think about those things? At least do we talk to the patients in that way, keeping that in my mind? You know, I think it's also very important for us to understand, you know, all these patients who come to us are only physically, but more than that, the psychology. Then the last one, I think our whole, whatever you call it, mission or vision or whatever it is, I think written very simple in this verse. Then I about that we are bound to give a standard medical care to the patient. What is standard medical care? Is that, you know, care which majority of the equally qualified professionals in that given specialty is given in that circumstances. In given circumstances would give, right? This is also called Bolam test. You can Google it and see. That means that, you know, as medical practitioner, we should provide with the care which would be given by the majority of the equally qualified people, professionals in that specialty. So who would say that, you know, what is the equally qualified, what is the standard medical care? Of course, we have medical association, and we have our professional colleges, right? So they will be called to the courts to give what is the standard medical care in that particular, that given circumstances. But it doesn't mean that, you know, we can't deviate from the standard medical care, because there are a lot of other legal concepts, like, you know, for example, best interest of the child, right? We have to do whatever possible for the best interest of the child. So if you deviate from the standard care and can prove that I did it for the best interest of the patient or best interest of the child, then of course you will be not in trouble actually, because you can prove it, right? So therefore, whatever you do has to be for the best interest of the patient or the child. Then in medicine, you know, medical legal aspect, when you talk about medical aspect, there are two things, like, you know, ethics and the laws. Laws are in the country which are laid down in the statutories, right? And you can see, you know that, you know, we have a penal code of Sri Lanka which describe all the offences and the punishments, and we have a criminal procedure code of Sri Lanka that is where how to investigate and prosecute the crimes, and similarly the civil matters also the same thing. So all these things are laid down in the statutories books. So if you breach all these laws, that will be taken as an offense. You will be punished. And also when you breach a law of the country, usually it will be taken it as an offense against the state. So the state will give you, right? But ethics is different. Ethics is laws. Those are, you know, laid down by members of the same field by time to time, right? They got together and discussed and decided that this is the way we should behave. We should provide our service from the time to time, from the Hippocrates time ethics and moral practice has been laid down. So if you breach these ethical moral principles, right, it is not an offense. But if due to this breach of these ethics or moral principles, the patient is the client, our client, right? Patient suffers, then he can individually go to the courts and get a compensation from the doctor who breached that ethics. You know that there are general principles of ethics like autonomy. That is, the patient has a right to choose or refuse treatment. We can't force on them, right? But the thing is, we can inform them, we can make them aware, right, about the available methods, and then he can choose it. Then the beneficiary, that is, act on the best interest of the patient. Whatever we do has to be for the best interest of the patient. And not non-malfeasance, that is, whatever we do should not harm the patient. That is very clear, right? And then justice, fairness, and equity. We cannot treat differently according to the gender or ethnicity or the religion or whatever it is. We have to treat patients equally and fairly. And then we have to respect the patients, right? The honesty must be there. Then the confidentiality. Whatever we see or hear from the patient, we cannot divulge to anyone without their consent or otherwise due to law. So this confidentiality, laws, statutory laws written in legal documents like parliamentary acts, right? In the government gazettes, ministerial circulars, a breach of laws are offenses and punishable. Prosecution is by the state. So you have to be familiar with all these documents, actually, at least, the common offenses, which are, which we get victims of these crimes, actually, as a patients. We have to be very careful when we deal with these victims of crimes. Confidentiality, as I told you, can be breached, actually, under some circumstances. That is, because in the medical practice, sometimes whatever we see and hear from the patient, we may have to disclose to some other party. So when you disclose this, that is, when you breach this confidentiality, it is, if it is with the consent of the patient, of course, you are not at fault. So make sure that, or try at least to get the consent of the patient when you have to disclose the information. But then in some situations, like, as a statutory duty laid down by the law, if you have to divulge the information, of course, you are not at fault. Now, for example, say in our country, abortion is a criminal offense, right? Individually, you may lobby for the termination of pregnancy, right? Due to various reasons. In many countries, it is already allowed, but in our country, due to various reasons, still we go by the colonial laws, and it is not allowed to terminate. Only it is allowed only for the save the mother's life, right? So for not any other reason. So no matter how you individually react to this position, but if you see a patient with the evidence of recent abortion, you have to inform to the police. Similarly, if you see a patient with the injuries of dangerous weapons, you have to inform the police. I think by not doing that, of course, if you go through by recent news came up in the recent history, recent days, some of these cases were discussed, actually, where doctors been informed the police about certain type of injuries, right? Some blast injuries, just because patient said that it was blast injuries are due to gas cylinder explosion. So likewise, I think we are statutory, our statutory laid down the law is to inform all these dangerous weapon injuries. We don't know what it is. And then we can breach the confidentiality by order of the court of law or law enforcement authority. If we get a court order to divulge about the patient, we have to do that by a statement or by a letter or whatever it is, by a report. And also, if the police comes to and record a statement about, and to get information about the patient, yes, we have to give, because that is the law by the order of the law enforcement. And also sometimes in the interest of the community. Now, for example, if you see a patient with a color blindness, right? And who is a driver of a public transport, and you advise him to get this corrected and treated, but he doesn't do that, then you have a right to inform the motor vehicle commissioner about this case, right? And that is, in this case, actually, you have to inform the person who has a right to hear those information, not to anyone else, right? And then other things like, HIV and AIDS and, information about the young patients' cases, those are the very advanced cases, I think, dilemmas. You have to discuss it senior people when you come across with your, I would say, HIV patient, if you inform the third party, it can be a breach of confidentiality. At the same time, if you don't inform the spouse about the positive HIV, then the spouse can go to and ask the doctor, purpose didn't inform me, because of that I got the disease. Likewise, those are very advanced cases, so they have to discuss with other senior people and decide case by case. So what happens with breach of any duty? Breach of duty can amount to little civil litigation, right? So if the person suffers a damage because of the breach of duty, they can go to the courts, civil courts. In Sri Lanka, it is district courts, and they can file the individual case and ask for the compensation. I think you may have heard about the medical negligence cases. I think the turning point of this in medical negligence and compensation litigation was Professor Priyan Saisa's case in Sri Lanka, and then can amount to criminal negligence also sometimes. For example, if a surgeon or doctor does some surgery under influence of alcohol, right, that will be taken as a criminal negligence, and then in that case, of course, the doctor will be charged in the magistrate courts by the state for the committing criminal negligence, right? And at top of that, actually, there can be an inquiry by the medical council, because anyone in this country can make a complaint to the medical council in a form of affidavit against any wrong practice of a doctor, and then that will be inquired. And if you go by very common medical legal duties of clinician, consent, right? Because as I told in the general ethics also, consent is very important. You can't do, the patient has a right to choose or refuse treatment. So that means when we treat the patient, we have to get the consent. This consent is very important for investigation and treatment of living patients, and also for medical legal examination of living and the postmortem examination and the removal of tissues for transplantation and those things. You need the consent from the patients or from the relatives. Right now, sometimes I have seen in some places when the patient comes to the surgical ward, the nurse gets a blank consent, but that doesn't give any legal coverage, because that is not a correct practice. You have to get the proper consent by informing the, and the consent is, when you talk about consent, there are a few types of consent. You have to know about it. One thing is the implied consent, right? Implied consent means that, the fact that the patient comes to hospital or comes to doctor, right? That implies that, patient is given consent to be examined and to be treated. But that consent is sufficient only for very basic things. You can get the history, you can auscultate, and you can palpate certainly. But if you want to examine, say, genital parts or breast examination, or you want to do any invasive methods of investigation, then you have to get the separate consent on that, right? I think I don't know whether you have heard about the stories, and a surgeon was, or ENT surgeon or eye surgeon, I can't remember properly, and was charged for examination of breast without patient consent, right? So those things are actually very important for us to follow. So implied consent is very basic thing, and the most important consent is the informed consent. That is what we practice now. So informed consent can be either oral or maybe in the written informed consent, where you inform the patient about the procedure or treatment method that you are going to give. In fact, in some other countries, of course, it has to be the patient has to be informed about the available treatment methods and the side effects of all these things and drugs and all of that. But in our country, of course, the people are not very intelligent enough to understand those things. But at least very basic things about the treatment method and possible side effects, of course, also should be informed and then get the consent. I think now most of the colleges have developed the consent forms, and it's been used, especially College of Anesthesiologists and the surgeons. They inform, they have the consent forms where they get the proper informed consent, but in some cases there can be problems. Therefore, we are aware about this informed consent. And any adult of sound mind should be able to give a informed consent. When it comes to the child, in our country, I don't know whether you know that child in our country generally is a person who is below 80, right? Generally, so including the for consent, right? That is called age of maturity or age of majority, and that is our country still considered as 18. So below 18 only, above 18 only people can give a consent for medical examination, surgical treatment, medical treatment, and the dental treatment, and also for medical legal examination. And this 18 general 18 years age limit is different actually in certain some issues, individual issues, like for example, now work and earn, right? Legal age for the work and earn is now it is 16. Very recently it was changed to 16. Before that, of course, it was 14. So about 16 only they can work and earn, and 16 to 18, of course, there are restrictions. They cannot do dangerous work, they can't do night works, and they have to have levels between works likewise, and then for sexual contact with the girl age should be more than 16 in our country. If a male person is having a sexual intercourse with the girl below 16, even with her consent, that will constitute as a rape. Similarly, now to purchase liquor and the cigarettes, our age limit is 21. So in certain issues, the age limit is different, but generally it is 18, right? So when a child is below 18, then he can't give a consent, so the parent or the guardian should give a consent for treatment. Now, when it comes to the child and the guardian or parent is receives individual consent in an emergency life-saving situation, then of course, according to the law and also from the legal documents, treating doctor, clinician can discuss with the head of the institution or another senior consultant and decide what to do to save the life, because best interest of the child, right? Best interest is very concept. You can do an emergency treatment, emergency attendance. For example, some of these Jehovah's Witness believers don't they object for blood transfusion. They, of course, can object for themselves, but if the objection is towards the child, then of course the doctor can take a decision and do a blood transfusion. But if you have time to decide, then the doctor can inform the police. The police, the magistrate, then the magistrate will temporarily remove the guardianship from the parent or guardian of a child, and he himself take over the guardianship for the by behalf of the state. So the magistrate can order to do necessary things for the child to save the child's life. And similarly, in unsound mind, unconscious patient also, we can do only to save the patient's life, right? Life-saving situations only. But other treatment, of course, we have to wait till the patient become conscious and get the consent from the patient himself. For example, if the patient comes following an accident with a multiple fractures, and you can take the patient unconscious, you can take the patient to the theater and clean and give blood and do IV. But if you think that patient needs amputation, you can't do the amputation until patient becomes conscious and give the proper consent. And also, it is very important for you to have a female chaperone when you examine a female, right? And this doesn't happen in the wards, but in the medical legal practice and in private practice, this all can happen. And this, there are a lot of doctors who got into trouble because of the no chaperone is available. And recently also we had a a PG trainee in forensic medicine who got into trouble, who examined sexual abuse victim without a female chaperone and the parent, and examined, and then there's allegation that he himself abused the victim. So make sure that you keep a female chaperone when you examine a female in the government sector as well as in the private sector, in your PP also. And I'm sure that you must have already started, some of you, doing PP. Proper documentation, date and time of admission in a hospital, and the examination, any procedures, attendance, proper BHT notes, should be very clear handwriting. So those are very important, date and time of admission. Because sometimes this date and time of admission is very crucial in some legal cases, right? I can give you plenty of examples where the date and time was very crucial. So sometimes the doctor comes to the courts to explain where not very clear, right? And then again, the correct injury description. I don't know whether you remember when you did the internship, actually, when all these victims of crime, cut injuries and laceration, all these injuries comes, you, the etc., whoever who treat patient has to give the description about the injury, and the short history in medical legal cases, because sometimes when the game was examined next day, the all injuries are treated and sutured and altered. So we have to entirely depend on what the house officer or the SH has written, right? And so therefore, it is very important for you to write these things in detail, especially in criminal cases. And don't think that that is duty of the JMO and we have nothing to do with that. No, we can put you into trouble, because we can write in our report that patient was in the POP and all these injuries were treated when we examine. So therefore, we advise so and so doctor who examined and treated this patient to be asked for the report. So then you will be given you will be getting the summons, send the report, additional report. So then you are also in the process. So therefore, don't think that this is only a AMO's problem, right? So you have a duty to properly describe these injuries in the BHT, especially in cases, in the criminal cases, in the victims of crime. And also similarly short history in medical legal cases, right? Then everybody has a duty to give emergency treatment. And also again, the presence of alcohol smell in the breath, and especially now if you are going to work in the OPD, remember that, when the people are being brought for, not only for but for other things also, but injuries, accidents, assault cases and all, is our duty to make a statement about the presence of alcohol. Actually, medical legally, we are supposed to give two status of alcohol consumption. One is the smelling of liquor in the breath, right? And other thing is the under intoxication of alcohol. Intoxication of alcohol is a clinical diagnosis, because there are two functions are being impaired. That is the coordination and the reaction time is impaired under intoxication. So that has to be assessed to say that patient is under influence of alcohol. To assess that, of course, you have to do clinical test, right? The Romberg test and the finger nose test, and you have to ask various other tests are there. And smelling of breath, of course, you just get the smell from the breath on your own. The thing is, if the patient was admitted following injuries and fractures and all, then you can't do this test. So without doing for this clinical test assessment, it's very unfair for you to say under intoxication. So you should not, if you have not done the clinical test, then you should not say patient is under intoxication. You can say smelling of breath is there. But unfortunately, I'm sure that if you recall what you have written in the BHDs during the internship, I'm sure some of you may have written that alcohol smell plus, I don't know what do you mean by this plus. Some people put 1+, Some people but big plus, and some people say plus 3 pluses. So who knows what it is? I don't know. So therefore, we had a few cases in the courts also. They were so when we asked, we said that we don't know. Then the doctor who wrote in the BHD was someone with evidence. What do you mean by doctor by plus? Then they were in trouble. So remember, never ever when you in the OPD don't write this plus or actual alcohol plus. Either you say the smelling of breath, smelling of alcohol in the breath, or intoxication. If you can do a clinical test, please assess that and they say whether person is under influence of alcohol. And the other thing is, when you go as a SHOs or MOs, when you order drugs actually in the ward, make sure it is given with the drug chart, whether that's what been given. And then also necessary investigation. This is also very important. If you remember that, that for the Priyanis Oisa's case, one allegation against her that, despite the repeated request from the father of the child, deceased child, she failed to failed to ask for the CT scan of it, right? So if there are necessary investigation, don't hesitate to do investigation, especially X-rays, because missing of fractures are the leading medical negligence even in the the world developed countries. So therefore, when there's a necessity, always order for investigation, and even if they're not available in that particular station, that's the indication for you to transfer to a station where investigations are available. And the other thing is a medical certificate. When the patient is treated in your hospital or in your private practice also, they have a right to ask for the medical certificate, right? If you say, no, I can't give, you can't say actually. In fact, there are cases, few cases where the doctors have been reported to medical council for refusing give medical certificates. They have a right, patient has a right to ask for the medical certificate. Usually they ask for the, to submit to the working place, to say that unfit to work. And some people actually request to, for the request for the certificates to submit it to the courts. So for both reasons, they have a right, remember, right? So only thing is when you give a certificate to be given to the courts, usually the patient is in the ward. So the report has to be submitted when the case is taken over. You can't wait till the patient gets discharged. So while the patient in the ward, or while patient initiating your treatment in the private practice, they might ask. So in that case, you have to very clearly inform the court that patient how long the patient will be unfit to attend courts, so that the court can postpone the case depending on your opinion. So therefore, you have to very clearly say that the patient is unfit to attend courts for, say, some period, so the court can decide. But only thing is, some people I have seen that some doctors, very casually issue certificates, medical certificates, and put a seal. This is not for the court proceeding. That's absurd, right? Because that has no value. Because I have seen few cases where some of the culprits, perpetrators, have used these documents as an alibi for committing crimes, right? They kill a person, right? And they stay at home. When the police come to apprehend, they say, how can I do this? Mama not sunny, but so then the police will call you, or whoever the doctor who gave the certificate, right? And ask various questions. And then sometimes you may be produced. There's unnecessary hassle. Whenever you give it to a proper person who can be treated by you. I know you have a record. You can have a record in your private practice where to whom you have issued the medical certificate. So later on, if somebody questions, yes, I gave this person medical certificate for this reason for how many days, like that, just a register like. And also then second opinion. This is also actually very important when you're not sure. Always get a second opinion from another doctor. But even in your simple private practice, also I think is a very good thing. And even the consultants take a second opinion. Even the JMOs, of course, we send sometimes for the second opinion to another doctor, another JMO. So second opinion. Even remember in the Priyanis Oisa's case, there's another allegation against her. Despite the repeated request from the child's father, she refused to get a second opinion from the neurosurgeon, right? That was another allegation against her. And also necessary samples for toxicology in suspected poisoning. Sometimes when you get the patients with some sort of suspected history, always try to get the samples for toxicology and keep the samples, like blood or urine or vomitous material or whatever it is. And also sometimes you may get some of the evidence of crime from the patients. So all these things actually should be handed over to either to the JMO or to the investigating police officer. So for that purpose, we have to there's a legal concept called maintaining the chain of custody of samples, right? That is when you recover evidence of crime from a patient, that has to be you have to be certified that who took the sample and where it was kept and to whom it was handed over, when and where. So it has to be documented. So otherwise, other party may try to say that no, this doctor has not done a proper job and it is altered, right? Somebody has introduced something else. It is not a proper sample that taken from the patient. Likewise, So therefore, this is called maintaining a chain of custody. So therefore, you have to have a register in the wards, maintaining chain of custody, where right that from where it was taken, who took the sample, and where it was taken, under whose custody, and likewise, And then there's an issue that medical legal issue which comes sometimes very seriously, going against medical advice. I mean, any person has a right to go and get a treatment from the hospital of his wish or from a doctor of his wish. So he can go at any time. He has a right to go, right? And the relations have a right to take that patient to somewhere else. So in that case, they have a right to ask for the diagnosis card and the brief history of treatment. We are bound to give that to the patient. We can't refuse that, right? Only thing is that when the discharge place, you say Lama on this date, right? Let's again medical advice. But only thing is, then they can ask for the X-rays and the CT films, because if they are going to for the further treatment, suppose it may be a private hospital, maybe a hospital close to their home. So whatever it is, they need these X-rays and CT scan and all. They're all government properties, so they have to give them. Only thing is the responsibility should be given to the patient. And and say supposing the patient is not in a position, you think that patient is not in a position to transfer, right? So then you inform the relatives so that this transportation is a risky, right? But they still won't. Then let them write. රෝගියාගේ තත්ත්වය සම්බන්ධව වෛද්‍යරයා මාවත පහදා දුන්නද? රෝගියා රැගෙන යාමේදී විය හැකි අනුසු සම්බන්ධව මාවත පහදා දුන්නද? එම රෝගියා මගේ කැමැත්තෙන් වෛද්‍ය ප්‍රතිකාර වැඩි වෛද්‍ය සඳහා මම රැගෙන යාමේ. So you give the responsibility to them, right? Similarly, the X-rays and other things also. You could ask them to write that අවල් අංක දරන X-ray පිටපත් සහ CT පිටපත් මා විසින් ලබා ගතිමි. Let them sign. So if someone asks later on, no, they signed and took all these things. But only thing is they have a right to do that. The responsibility should be given to them, right? This comes actually very frequently nowadays because a lot of people are going to another hospital for treatment. And then the other issue is the insist on admission. Well, without detailing on this topic, I'll just give you a history, get you a story. I'll tell you a story, right? A girl, about 14 years old girl, who went to school and then had a headache and came home after school and crying and said mother that I'm having a headache, and then the mother gave her 2 Panadol and they repeated after 6 hours but still having a headache. Then in the late evening she was taken to one of the district hospital, general hospital, Colombo suburb. And patient was taken to ETU, and ETU doctor took it very slightly, of course. I think that Panadol, okay, I'll give you a good size. He prescribed diclofenac sodium suppository, right? The mother bought it from the pharmacy. and the ETU-MO inserted inside the ETU and kept for about 15 minutes. Then now you can go home, right? Now the child, of course, reluctantly went, and then in the car porch, when she was about to get into the tri-show, again shouted, cried, and headache is severe headache, and went back to the ETU. Then MO ETU was not happy with that. He got a vial, and here the so admitted and wrote this institution admission. Okay, then child was taken to the ward. So it was night now, and the HO was there. He was doing ward round, night ward round, and doing something. And nurses admitted this patient, and the patient is now on the admission bed, and the BHT was given to the house officer. So house officer called the patient to the table, Balanda. So the mother said, "Ane mahatya duwa kiyනවා me daruwata enna bෑ කියලා ඔළුව කියනවා හොඳටම කියලා ඇල්ල." Then now house officer saw these 3 words, insist on admission. එහෙනම් ඉන්නකෝ මම ඉවර කරලා වැඩ ඉවර කරලා එන්න. So while the child is on the admission bed, she developed a fit and arrested, right? And then a lot of issues came up, and the body was transferred to me for autopsy, and there was a colloid cyst in the brain. I mean, maybe that given time and distance and all these things, child could not have been survived, because CT scan should have been done, and MRI or CTO, then neurosurgeon do the surgery, but the attitude of doctor and the hospital created a lot of issues. Now all these things issues because of this insist on admission, 3 words. I mean, if a patient wants to get admitted for some reason and stay in the overnight in the hospital, let them do that. This is government. Why you are getting into trouble unnecessary problem? The next day morning of the physician or whoever will do the ward round and see that nothing wrong, and he can discharge, right? Because one wrong decision actually can create a lot of problems. So therefore, I think be aware about these issues. And my advice is not to write this, not to use this insist on admission 3 words. Then the necessary referrals and transfers actually we talked about, and communication with relatives is also very important. And the cases that which come to us, right? And the relation says the doctor said that patient is okay, and suddenly died. Something, I mean, unforeseen, of course, okay. But when you say that patient is died from the same reason he was treated for, then why the doctor didn't tell us all these things? That patient is bad. So I think we should find small time to communicate with the relatives also, especially when the patient are in ICUs and and in a bad situation. And there's another issue that very important medical legal duty is the dying declaration, especially when victims of crime comes to a hospital and get admitted. And if you think that patient is going to die now, right? And if you think that patient is a sound mind to give a statement, then in our setup, of course, very easy. Inform the police post and get the police officer and ask him immediately come and record the statement, because the patient is going to die, right? And then the only thing is, if the police officer is not available for some reason, then of course your duty is to record the statement. It should be done in a separate paper, right? And this is about the circumstances which led to this situation of the patient, right? Not about anything else, not about the last will or how the TV should be to whom to be given, or the cat to whom the cat should be given, or whatever. No, it's about the circumstances, only circumstances. Who assaulted with what and when and where, those things, right? And then you write in the separate paper, get the patient to sign or put the thumbprint and put your signature, and also another nurse or sister or doctor as a witness, and then put that document into the envelope and seal it and hand it over to the head of the institution, right? And it will be with the head of the institution. And when the patient pass away, that letter, that statement, envelope can be handed over to the investigating officer or the magistrate confidentially, right? No one can see that. if the patient not die, of course, survives, then of course just throw it away because the patient can give a statement later on himself, right? That is a dying declaration. Then about the death confirmation. Now, when the patient dies at the ward, death confirmation is a very important thing, and even at night, the doctor has to attend and certify the death. Should not wait till the next day morning, right? And these are the cases that refer to police and medical legal examination. I think you should know all these cases. All victims of crime, assault, sexual abuse, child abuse, elderly abuse, right? And also victims of traffic accidents, right? I think you must have done all these things during your internship. And also the victims of torture, patients with injuries caused by dangerous weapons. I think you remember also, one of these cases of this Saharan's Easter bombing accused person's brother when he was admitted, and with the history of gas cylinder explosion. It was not in the course, informed the police, and the police has not issued the MLE form and not informed the JM also. So that was questioned in the courts why it was not referred to police. Right, all these weapons, the dangerous weapons, should be informed to the police. And also victims of domestic violence. This is also another issue actually recent time, right? And also accused persons of crime, say abortions, traffic violations, drunken people. All these cases should be informed to the police because of also accused people of crime. And also should inform the police and the JMO when you get these sort of cases without delay. Because I have seen that some hospitals, some people practice that you inform the police and the JMO when patient is about discharged. That is wrong actually, because sometimes the police investigation depend on the JMO's opinion in the MLE form. When he say that it is a cut injury and caused by a sharp weapon, then the police may try to look for the sharp weapon. Otherwise, other evidence may have didn't have a proper clue for them. So likewise, it is important. I mean, the priority should be given to treatment. That's true. At the same time, when there's a patient admitted like that, with the treatment, we have to inform the police and JMO also to do the medical legal coverage as well. Don't wait till complete the treatment, right? And also very important that don't try to be an investigator, right? I have seen some cases here, now when the patient come and say with some injuries, doctor, I following a fall. Now, are we in a position to investigate that whether the patient has had a fall, true fall, right? And who knows? That is only what the patient says. So I have several cases, patient fall, right? And then some cases, of course, without believing her, but then when we examined, of course, we found that injury patterns are not compatible with the fall, and then we asked them repeatedly and in detail. Then they came up with the story that they have been assaulted, especially in domestic violence cases, and very recently we had a similar case. So likewise, doctor is not an investigator, so don't try to do investigation. There's an investigator in the hospital itself, the police. So inform the police. Let the police come and if they are satisfied, of course, they will write in the PhD. They take the responsibility. So therefore, I think all these unnatural things, the patient with injuries and all, inform the police, let them take the decision. And also, suicidal now in our country, 1995, the attempted suicide was taken away, removed from the penal code as an offense. It is no more an offense, suicide, right? Abating suicide is an offense. If somebody is helping another person to commit suicide, that's an offense. But attempting suicide is not an offense no more. 1995 to remove. But sometimes, again, doctor should be an investigator in this case. Right? You inform the police. Patient has taken poison. And I took myself. But who knows? He may say that, no, I was forced to take this. Then it is too late. Then you also now a problem. Now you also witness now. You are really cold. How the patient. So let the police decide that. inform all this to the police and let the police decide. And also don't discharge if the JMO complete the medical examination. Otherwise, very complicated issue. Everybody will be in trouble. So when the medical legal examination not completed, if there are delay from the JMO, of course you can talk to the JMO and say. But otherwise, make sure that all these cases, especially victims of crime, are being medical legal examined before discharge, right? And also, it suggest you to on diagnosis card write the MLEF number and the date of issue for future references. If you write the JMO who examine also, that's very good. In fact, we started that practice in the NHS. We in the diagnosis card we write the MLE form number and the doctor who examine also the JMO. And later on, it is important because sometimes we have seen that patients go to the police of their area where the crime or accident took place with the card, right? So that police also doesn't take the MLE form from the police post here. So they file the case with that diagnosis card, and the diagnosis card has the treating surgeon's seal. So they put they name that surgeon as a witness of that case. The poor surgeon gets the summons to the MLR, right? They don't have any records with them. Likewise, to avoid those things, it's better to write the MLEF number and the date of issue and the doctor's name in the diagnosis card when you discharge. Yeah, suicide attempts, of course, it is not an offense anymore. However, it is better to inform the police as you are not an investigator. Refer them to psychiatrists for counseling and prevention of future attempts, as I told you. Then, when the death occurs in hospital, first thing, as I told you, death certifying procedures should be followed, right? And they should be attended immediately and never tell the nurse that that is very wrong. You have to death confirm even at midnight. I don't know whether how you did it during the internship, but in future also remember when you are when you have a duty to do that, it has to be done immediately, and death should be confirmed. And then if the cause of death can be given and there's no indication for the inquest, then of course you can write the B33 form, the death declaration, and release the dead body. I think you all are aware with the recent amended B33 form, where we write the death declaration and the time period very clearly for the statistics purpose. And, I'm sure that you have written the death declaration in the new form, the WHO format. Then when the death declaration has been written, of course, you can release the dead body without delay. Because death is a very important event for anybody in any religion, any ethnicity. So therefore, the dead body has to be released immediately. Even at midnight, there's no bar for you to release the dead body to the relations when the death declaration has been given. And then when the death requires an inquest, then you have to ask for the inquest. How to request an inquest? Of course, you have to write in the BHT informing the police and the police to arrange for the inquest and the autopsy. What are the deaths reportable to police and inquirer to have an inquest? First thing is the death, right? The patient have been in the ward for months and you have been treated for many long period, but if you can't give the cause of death, exact cause of death, and why the death occurred, then of course we have to ask for the inquest. So unknown cause of death is the main reason for asking for the inquest, right? Then cause of death may be known, but you should ask for the inquest under these following circumstances. But the first thing is homicide, right? Homicide means the killing of a human by another human. So homicide, when there's a human, there's a homicide, and even if the cause of death is known, you have to ask for the inquest. Death due to violence, right? Suicide. Accidents, all sort of accidents, road traffic accidents, burns, falls, right? Drowning, industrial accidents, electrocutions, poisoning, aspirations, choking, rail accident, air crashes, or unnatural deaths. All these things should be referred to coroner and the police for the inquest, and if necessary, autopsies. Then the suspicious deaths, and if you think, this death occurred in suspicious circumstances, yes, please ask for the inquest. And deaths due to negligence and starvation, and drugs due to drug mishaps and abuse, drug abuse. Animal attacks, all these animal attacks, maybe snake bite, maybe elephant attack, wild animal attacks, whatever it is, it has to be invested. And the deaths due to industrial diseases, deaths due to anesthesia and surgery. Due to anesthesia and surgery, it doesn't mean that all the deaths and all the deaths happening after anesthesia and surgery. No, only if you suspect any of these is due to some surgery and anesthesia. Otherwise, if you can be the cause of death, you can release, right? Then suspected medical negligence. Then the maternal deaths. Maternal deaths are very important, I think, for you to know, because that is a situation where now the inquests are being held by the inquiry into certain deaths or by the magistrates, right? All these are governed by the Minister of Justice, right? And the Minister of Justice actually has issued a circular, right? Yeah, has been issued by the Minister of Justice, where it very clearly says in five inquests, the coroner cannot release the dead body without autopsy. That means autopsy is compulsory. First thing is a homicide. Second thing is suicides, firearm injuries, maternal deaths, and when the cause of death is not known to the clinician, right? So if the inquest and the autopsy is being requested by the clinician due to unknown cause of death, then the coroner can't give the cause of death, apparent cause of death, and release the dead body, right? That's very clear. Only thing is, sometimes the doctors don't write the reason why you request for the inquest. If you say that cause of death is not known, so please ask for make arrangement to arrange inquest and autopsy, then the coroner can't release the dead body. So therefore, very important when you request the request to write what is the reason. Now in the maternal deaths, right? It's very important. There were few circulars issued by the Minister of Justice as well as from the Minister of Health regarding the maternal death, because all the maternal deaths should be investigated, right? And also it is reviewed at 3 levels in Sri Lanka, at the institution level, and the district level, and the national level, because we think that mother is not a patient, right? She's a healthy woman who is trying to bring into this world. So she should not die. So therefore, when she dies, of course, that's a big problem. So we look into details to find out why she died, and to make sure that similar thing will not occur again. So to prevent next year. So therefore, a lot of things have been done for that. The circulars, few circulars, maternal deaths. This declaration should not be written. You have to ask for the inquest. Autopsy should be prescribed by the consultant JMO. If the consultant JMO is not available in that dead body has to be transported to the station where the consultant JMO is available on health ministry expenses. This is the only situation where dead body is being allowed to transport on government expenses, right? And from the Ministry of Justice also, the coroner or the inquirer into certain death, the magistrate cannot release the dead body without post-mortem in maternal death. So it's important the maternal death to be reviewed, right? And also everything seems to be very clear. Relation says, no doctor, we want to ask for the inquest and autopsy. Please order for that. They have to ask for the inquest and the autopsies. And also unnatural deaths, lightning, anaphylaxis, food poisoning, tetanus, rabies, and also in unidentified dead bodies also, it is important to have an inquest and autopsy, because we should take steps to identify the disease, and we have a special protocol for to manage the unidentified dead bodies. Then the death in suspicious circumstances, death in police custody, prison, mental hospital, and depressed hospital. Those deaths, of course, should be inquested by the magistrate only. Even the ordinary inquiry into sudden death, so the coroner cannot have an inquest on these deaths: police custody, prison, mental hospital, leprosy hospital, and also in criminal abortion, suspected child abuse. And also, please remember, I don't know whether you have been taught about this case and you came across it, this sort of situation in during intern. Death mere occurring within 24 hours of admission is not an indication for the inquest, right? If you can give a cause of death, even if the death occurred within 24 hours, please you don't have to ask for the inquest. I don't know, some people still think, and there was a circulation long time ago, I think about 30 years ago, to ask for the inquest when the death occurred in 24 hours, but it lasted for less than 1 month, and next circular was issued withdrawing the first circular, right? The most important thing is for you to give a cause of death, and also there's no indication for the inquest. But still, I don't know, that circular which was there for only 1 month is being practiced in some stations. I don't know why. We thought we teach them in the medical faculties and the students, and when they go to the hospitals, somehow they still practice this. Remember, and tell the others also that there's no reason, there's no legal requirement to ask for the inquest just because that the death occurred within 24 hours of admission to hospital. So when death occurs in hospital, request an inquest without delay, right? Without delay. And then when you request an inquest, of course, there should be some ways of sending dead bodies to mortuary, because none of the evidence of treatment should be removed from the dead body when the dead body is subjected to an autopsy, right? All these cannulas and ET tubes and catheters and even the IC tube should be in the place, because we have them into the report that they are in the correct place or we are not in the proper place. Whatever it is, we have to write in our report. So therefore, none of these evidence of treatment should be removed from the dead body. I think you have to inform the nurses also. That nurses are of course very much aware about these things, but in some cases maybe that can be happening still. And also clinicians' representation. We of course welcome as a JMOs to the autopsies, clinicians. Then we can also discuss them and there, and we can listen to the explanation of some of the pathological findings that we see in the BHD and in the dead body, rather than arguing with all these open forums. Especially this happens in maternal deaths, and in the maternal death review meetings, we show our pictures and photos and we tell, and sometimes the clinicians say that we use some different explanation for those facts. So we could have discuss those things during the autopsy actually, rather than arguing in the meeting. So therefore, we always welcome clinician. In fact, these are very auditing, and you can get a lot of facts from the autopsies and to prevent certain things happening again, and what went wrong, and why it went wrong, and then prevent those things happening next time. And also, I think whatever that I discussed with you is a judicial postmortem. You inform the police to arrange an inquest, and the inquest is being held by the inquiry into sudden death, and inquiry into sudden death request the JMO to do an autopsy. That is the judicial postmortem. So in our country, upon the law, none of relations or next of kin or whoever cannot object for the postmortem in this law. In some countries, in Australia, even in the coroner's request, relations can object for the autopsies. But in our country, no, judicial postmortem. So then there's a thing called pathological postmortem. I think some clinicians are, misunderstand these two things. Pathological postmortem is actually where the autopsy can be done on cases where the cause of death is known and the death declaration has been written, right? And then you might ask, what the hell I want to do the postmortem here? The cause of death is known and everything is clear. No, this is for the academic purposes. The clinicians want to know about the extent of the disease or how it responded to his treatment, and maybe to take samples for further studies and all, purely on academic purposes. In that case, the consent of the next of kin is important. So the cause of death should be known to the clinician, the declaration has to be written, and the consent of the next of kin has to be taken. Then who should do the pathology postmortem? Obviously, a best person is to the clinician to do that. Because he is the one who knows why it should be done. Of course, since that the autopsy will be done in the mortuary, the JMO is there. Certainly, we are there to help him, right? Our instrument will be used, so we are there to help him. But only thing is, he has to come and discuss with us what are things that should do. So that is a pathological postmortem, right? And how to write the cause of death? I think you must have written the B33 form using this WHO format. 1A is a immediate cause, 1B underlying cause for the immediate cause, and number 2 is a contributing diseases, right? And it's very, I think I don't know whether you had some training on this, but remember there are a thing called modes of death, right? Modes are like, cardiac arrest or the cardiorespiratory failure. I mean, those are called modes of death. I mean, just tell me any death where the cardiac arrest doesn't happen. That is not a cause of death. That's not a disease. That is a mechanism, right? So those modes of death should not be written as a cause of death under 1A or 1B or anywhere, right? That's very clear, right? And there's another other thing called ill-defined causes of death, right? Ill-defined causes of death are actually mainly the sepsis and multisystem failure, renal failure, then the encephalopathy. Those things are called ill-defined causes of death. We recommend not to use these ill-defined cause of death as well, but in some cases, when you describe the proper process of death, you cannot avoid, especially sepsis and multi-system failure, multi-organ failure, right? Even in the COVID deaths, of course, that gets multi-system, multi-organ failure. So likewise, you cannot sometimes avoid that. So if you write the ill-defined cause as the 1A immediate cause, then underlying cause has to be written, because for statistic purpose, we will take the underlying cause 1B. So therefore, when you write the ill-defined cause as a 1A, the underlying cause should be written definitely. Otherwise, it is not a legally legitimate cause of death, right? Then actually, for your general knowledge, what to do when the death occurs at home. Sometimes, people might come and ask, doctor, my so and so expired, passed away. What can I do now? Well, first thing is actually a doctor, maybe a family physician or somebody has to come and confirm the death, right? And should give the cause of death if possible, right? And then with the cause of death form, they have to go to the Grama Sevaka of that area, because there's a form to be filled by the Grama Sevaka, and where the cause of death also has to be put there, right? So the Grama Sevaka has to certify that this person was living in this Vasana. So with these documents, the next of kin has to go to the birth and death registrar and get the death registration. This is the normal process. Sometimes, now doctors actually are reluctant to give cause of death. In a way, sometimes true, but sometimes it can be given if they have treated and if they know, and there's no foul play. If they're very sure about it, of course they have a right to give. And in fact, there's a special form prepared by the Registrar General for this purpose. It is called B12. In fact, we are in the process of now amending this one also. So they can use either that form or it ahead or in the letter, I'm so and so, and I'm of the opinion that cause of death is this. But having said that, even the chronic diseased people or the bedridden people or people who have been suffering for long period are the people, vulnerable people, to be killed as well. Just keep a pillow over the face and suffocate. So therefore, you have to be very careful. So if the cause of death cannot be given by anybody, the next step is to go to the police, right, and inform the police. And the police will record the statements and then inform the coroner to have an inquest. The coroner is in a position to record all these statements from various parties, concerned parties, and look into the problem that they are having. And then, if he satisfied all these things, of course, he can give a apparent cause of death and release the body. If he cannot give a apparent cause of death, and if you have suspicion, then of course that body will be referred to JMO for the autopsy. Then we'll do the autopsy and then we'll find the cause of death. That is the usual procedure, the ideal procedure, legal procedure. When the death occurs at home, please be informed about this. If somebody asks, you can advise them. If no cause of death, police for inquest, apparent cause of death by the coroner if possible, and autopsy. And then, for you to know certain new developments in the health and the legal set in the country. First thing is, as you are starting your career, there's a very good developing program now as a disease donor organ transplantation program. We try to take organ from the deceased person donor when they are suitable donors. So for that purpose of their institutional and national coordinators have been appointed, and Human Tissue Transplantation Act is there to follow these legal things. And there are some circulars issued by the Ministry of Health. I'm not going to talk in details. And there's another thing that management of dead in disaster and catastrophes. And for that, of course, we have a guidelines of our college and institutional disaster management plan is there, preparedness drills, and this is also very important. I think the recently happened Easter bombing in our institute. We managed it in a proper internationally accepted way, and it was highly appreciated by many countries and embassies in the country for management of it in a proper international way. And then there's another very important legal document you should know, that is the Assistance to and Protection of Victims of the Crime, Act number 4 of 2015. This is where, for the first time in the country, victims of crime has been, attended, and and their rights and the entitlement have been described very in details. So when they have a right to get the service of government institution and government servants, including from the doctor. So if a doctor, not only JMO, even any doctor, doesn't give a proper care and the assistance when they come to hospital as victims of crime, of course, they can get the National Authority for Assistance and Protection of Victims of Crime, and they are even the doctors can be called to give explanation why the victim of crime was not given proper treatment, proper and prompt care, right? So therefore, be aware about those things, new developments, and also, as I told you, best interest of the child is very important concept. If we don't follow, we can be in trouble, and also we can use that concept to give the proper care to the child, right? And finally, of course, this is I just want to share this. I got it sometime back in from the PhD in NHSL. මේක කියලා තියෙනවා වෛද්‍ය අවවාද වලට පටහැනිව ක්‍රියා කරමි. හිදියන්ගේ අවවාද වලට පටහැනිව ක්‍රියා කරමි. ඇවිදීම ආදිය සිදු කරමි. මේ වගකීම මම විසින් බාරගතිමි. I mean, when you see this, of course, for medical personnel, of course, it's like a fun. But just imagine, when a non-medical person sees this, what has happened actually is this patient was, surgery was done or something, and the advice was given by the nurses or the doctors are that not to walk, right? But he has been walking, he was found walking, and then nurse must have asked, so he wrote it. And also this shows how these people are psychologically disturbed. That is what that I told you initially also, we don't care about it. Patients are psychologically immensely disturbed. More than the physical suffering, they are going through the psychological disturbance as well, though we don't care about it. So with this, of course, I can stop. And there are some, I think some, get this. Sorry. Chat. Can you hear me now? Hello.
Yes.
Right. Yes. Okay. There's a question in the chat. Can we have a presentation? Of course, yes. So in some occasions, patients aren't allowed to LAMA. Suppose critically ill or unstable. Is that illegal? Are they allowed to go LAMA in any occasion? I think I answered this. I replied this question. I think they have right. Only thing is you have to convince them. Yeah, they are in a bad situation. They are not in a good status to be transported. But still, then they let them write and let them take the responsibility and get them. And when if the patient dies even on the way, then their responsibility. Your job is to inform them properly and convince them this is what should be done, right? Then the next, dear sir, in which time can we say that the patient is in the ward? when the patient is actually not in the ward, they have to inform. But then, again, these things are being misused sometimes. Like another story actually, where I don't name the hospital again. This hospital in a suburb, patient, there was a patient who was brought by the some people, but there was no relation. This old Archie home, right? And they couldn't find the relations, and even inform the police. No one there to care and take home. So one day, this lady was found missing from the hospital, right? Informed the police by the sister, and then sometimes later, she was found dead in a little away from the hospital back gate, right? Then later on, it was revealed that the sister of that ward took this old Archie out of hospital and left her to go, and finally she found dead. So I think how long you have to wait till to inform the police, I don't know. But when the patient is missing from the ward, of course, or not seen in the ward, immediately inform the police. Then in which time can we say the patient has been missing? I think in some patient presented following RT request LAMA before JMO. Yeah, that's a good question actually. Now, yeah, this can happen. Again, that your duty is to tell the people and convince that the medical legal examination and those things are very important for the court case. Therefore, please wait till the police comes and the issue the MLE and the JMO comes. But if he says no, I'm going to another hospital and we can get it done from that hospital, yes, ask them to write in the BHD. Now, supposing sometimes the MLE form has been already issued and that they can't wait till the JMO comes, then again, convince them that there's an important and the JMO has to come and see, and then the JMO will read the report when it comes to the courts. So therefore, wait for him comes. And sometimes you may have to transfer the patient. JMO has not seen. So in that case, of course, the MLE form can be attached to the transfer form and write, JMO has not seen the MLE form. This number is attached to the transfer form, so that the JMO in the receiving hospital can attend to that. So likewise, I think you can convince the patients, and but if they insist to go, then again ask them to write the ticket and get the responsibility. And sometimes it may be the driver of the fatal accident who wants to go, right, before JMO or police comes. Then of course, if you are very sure that he must be the culprit, of course, just give a call, urgent call to the police post. Look, there's a guy like this, and I will expect this perpetrator of the accident, come and record the statement so that the responsibility is given to the police. So case by case, I think you can decide what to do and what is the most appropriate way. What about the neonates? Yeah, neonate. I don't know what you mean by neonate and what I mean in the death of the neonate, or in a death of neonate. Of course, now there's a compulsory autopsy for the neonatal. There's a registration of the stillbirths also now being registered. I think there's a circular issue on this issue. I think there's a different subject, and I think a lot of things to be discussed. I think when you go to hospital, contact JMO and get more recent development from the neonatal deaths and stillbirths. Is there something related to every child under 14 belongs to government, and if the mother wants LAMA, can the sister in charge overrule? Is there something related to every child belongs to government, and if the mother wants LAMA, can the sister in charge overrule? Yeah, of course, the child belongs to state, right? Because best interest of the child is very important, as I told you. Now, say it's a government duty to look after the well-being of the child, right? Give the proper care and safety of the child. So if a mother wants to go and leaving the child. That is what the person who mean this case. Of course, you have to inform the police. But as I told you that, if the mother wants to take the child before treatment is given, then of course you can act the way that I told you. So emergency situation, you can act. Otherwise, inform the police. The police can inform the courts and remove the custodialship. Those things are legally can be done. Can the patient go Lama even while awaiting police referral? I think we talked about these things. In Lama, sir, can they litigate us later saying they were not properly informed regarding the consent? That's why I told you that, give the responsibility for them. Ask them to write in the BHT, right? Not like that, mage kamatten mama yami, එහෙම නෙමෙයි. හරිද? මෙම තත්වයේ ඇති වැදගත්කම සහ බරපතල තත්ත්වයේ මා වෙත පහදා දුන්නද? ජීවිතයට අතුරුතාභාවයේ තත්ත්වය සම්බන්ධව මා වෙත පැහැදිලිව මා වෙත දැනුම් දුන්නද? මගේ කැමැත්තෙන් වැඩි ප්‍රතිඵල සඳහා මම රෝගියා රැගෙන යාමි. So give the responsibility to the patient. They have right to go, but they have to take the responsibility also, right? So even the obstetric patients can they go Lama? Of course, why not? Same thing applies to them as well. I think you must be meaning that the antenatal care was given by another one VOG, and then another VOG can take over. I think I'm sure that if they want to go, they must have discussed with another doctor. No? So if the patient is on a head injury observation chart following fall or assault, can he go Lama? Same thing I think we have been discussing again and again. Responsibility should be given to the patient. That means any occasion patient can go Lama after documentation. Yes, why not? Can the patient go Lama admitted following poisoning? Same thing. So if how can you prevent going against medical advice by forcing? Can you put a manchu and tie them into the bed and keep them? No. So if the patient is above 16 years old, can they give consent for surgery? No. It's actually in our country the age of majority is 18 because age of child is 18. In UK, for this treatment, the above 16 can give. But I have seen that some doctors try to apply this UK practice in Sri Lanka, but there's no law for that. In fact, we have been lobbying, we have been telling these legal people to change, right? The consensual age. It is funny. I mean, if you want to have a sex with a girl above 16, you can have a consent with from that girl. If you want to examine that child, the child should be below 18. 16 to 18, like a in between transition period. At the moment, at present, there's no law as such. The consensual age is 18. So therefore, consent, treatment and other purpose also can be given only when the child is above 18. What if patient can't write or read? What if patient can't write or read? Well, then of course somebody has to write behalf of the patient. Then of course somebody has to, and you can get the thumb imprint, but then somebody has to certify that, either a bystander or another doctor, another nurse, or somebody has to certify. But if it is called as a question in the courts, you have to say that, who certified and who wrote it. Even in our practice, of course, where we get the consent for the medical examination, they write that, informed consent, we say. And if the patient can't give a write, and then we ask someone to write, but then we write in brackets who wrote that. Later on, if they question, we can tell who wrote that. What is the procedure if a patient hits a doctor? Well, I don't know, because I don't know if forget about the doctor. If somebody hits you, then you have right for the self-defense, I think, in normal circumstances. But in a hospital, in a setup, supposing if a psychiatrist been hit by a psychiatric patient, I don't think that psychiatrist will hit back, knowing that the person who hit is not a normal person, right? But say supposing if a particular doctor has done a wrong thing knowingly against that patient, right, and patient got to know about it and came and hit, well, I think in that case, the doctor knows that he did the wrong thing to provocate that patient, and that is why he came and hit. Best thing is to run away, I think, rather than committing another crime. Is it the same for psychiatric patient? So what about a mature minor concept? They can give the consent. That is the problem in our country. Still, this age of majority is, you Google it, age of majority. It's called majority. That is Sri Lanka. It's nothing, no legal concept on that. UK, yes, they are there, but in our setup, still the consensual age for the general purpose is 18. Minor. Well, there's a thing called, very controversial papers also there, and laws are there. I don't think that we have time to discuss all these things now. Providing what do you call this, reproductive healthcare services to minor, including family planning methods. That's a controversial circular. I don't blame the health ministry, but it should, based on the information or the opinion given by it's a very controversial circulars. But anyway, there are a lot of things to discuss. That's all about the questions you asked. I think given time is over now. Thank you very much for the attention. Okay.
Right. Thank you very much, sir, for that very detailed and profound lecture on legal aspects in medicine, for our medical officer. Right. So today we are concluding the program early. So join tomorrow at 8:15 for internal medicine program. So inform your friends to join by 8:15. So we'll be taking attendance tomorrow and day after tomorrow. So 8:15. Right. Thank you.